for today's kitchen conundrum, it's actually one of the things that I love the most, and that is pho. Spelled P-H-O, but pronounced pho. And it is a Vietnamese beef noodle soup that is absolutely delicious. It's not that difficult to make, you just need to know the classic technique. You start with the most important component, broth. In front of me here, I have a pot of boiling water, and the first stage in creating a really flavorful and crystal clear broth is to blanch the bones that you're using. And what this does is it allows the impurities within the bones to release, and it won't cloud up your broth in the end. So I have 4 pounds of beef knuckle bones here. I also have 3 pounds of oxtail. All of this is going to go right into the pot. And then the very last addition here is 2.5 pounds of brisket. This will flavor the broth, and we'll also use it at the very end to serve alongside of the noodles and all of those wonderful aromatic herbs. This needs to boil for about 4 to 5 minutes until you see a lot of foam come up to the surface, and then we'll be ready to drain this. And while this is going here, I'm going to prepare the other components to the broth. I have 2 onions. These are just regular yellow onions here. I'm going to cut them in half. I have a few shallots and some ginger. One way we're really going to infuse a depth of flavor into this broth is by blackening these under the broiler. And these go under the broiler for maybe 2 or 3 minutes until they're really nice and blackened. I'm going to begin toasting my spices. There's cinnamon, which is very important. If you can find Vietnamese cinnamon at an Asian market, try to do that. Right into a dry skillet here over medium heat. I have 10 cloves, 2 teaspoons of black peppercorns, I have 1 teaspoon of fennel seed, and then I have star anise. And star anise is, I would say, the most important flavor in this broth. It's the most traditional, and it has, again, that licoricey, anisey flavor. I think this is about like 6 of them. And last but not least, I have 2 teaspoons of coriander seed, and coriander seed is the seed of the cilantro plant, so it has a really green, grassy flavor to it, a little bit of a citrusy flavor. So these spices need to toast in the pan for about maybe 1 or 2 minutes. You really want to be able to smell the spices. Okay, the aromatics have been blistered under the broiler. They look really nice and dark here. Our bones here have been blanched, and you can see all of the impurities have really kind of floated up to the top, and this is great because we don't want that in our final broth. Transfer this to a clean pot. So first up, the brisket. Do this nice and gently because this is hot. So I'm going to put my onions and my shallots right into the pot here. Ginger goes in. And last but not least, all of those wonderful toasted spices, all of that really great flavor. It's all going to marinate together. Now, simmering this broth, it's very important that you do this over a long period of time. I'm going to top this off with water. This is in total about 8 cups of water. You really want to be able to cover all the ingredients in the pot with a good amount of water. And again, it's going to go over very, very low heat. You want this on the barest simmer possible for about 6 to 8 hours. Now, in Vietnam, it's said that they do this overnight because Vietnamese pho is served in the morning as a breakfast soup. So this needs to go onto the stovetop here. And this is going to simmer until it's reduced by about 1/4, I would say. But you really don't want this to boil, so make sure you keep an eye on it every once in a while. So it's been about 8 hours, magic here, and you can see how much this broth has reduced down. Before you remove everything or drain this, take out that brisket and do this gently because it has been cooking for so long and it's very tender. Put it on a plate here, and we're going to reserve this for serving the final dish. So I'll put that off to the side, and now I'm going to strain out all of the other ingredients here. And then I think we are ready to drain this. Now, you want to strain this through some cheesecloth and a fine sieve, and you really want to remove all of the little particles from the broth here. Okay, it smells so delicious. Okay, so now 2 final ingredients that will finish off this broth. This is the signature right here. This is fish sauce. This is really the salt. This is what's going to enhance the flavor. This is a 1/2 cup of fish sauce that's going right in. And another ingredient that's a pretty special ingredient here is Chinese rock sugar. And if you didn't have this yellow rock sugar, you could certainly use granulated sugar or a little bit of brown sugar. This is about a 1.5 inch piece. and you could use about 2 teaspoons of regular granulated sugar in place of this. You could, of course, go through the process of ladling off the fat from the top of this broth, but if you put this in the refrigerator, the fat, it floats up to the top and it solidifies, and it's so much easier to remove once it's cold. So just want to stir this until that sugar is dissolved in this hot broth, and then into the refrigerator until it's nice and chilled. So this batch of pho broth has been in the refrigerator for overnight. Now it will probably take about 6 hours for it to cool and chill completely. So you can see the fat has floated up to the top, it's solidified, it's nice and hard. And now all you have to do is take a spoon and just collect off. Look at how easy it is to kind of take that fat off. So that's pretty fast and easy. Now I'm going to turn the heat up here to about medium-high heat, because you really want this broth to get fairly hot, because this is what's going to cook some of the other ingredients, or really heat up the other ingredients. And what are those ingredients? Well, of course, we have that cooked brisket here. This is also chilled overnight if you wrap it in plastic wrap, so it doesn't dry out in your refrigerator, and it's easier to cut when it's chilled. I'm only gonna do, I would say, about a half of this right now. This looks like enough for me, so I'm gonna stop cutting the brisket. And I also have eye of round, which is right here. It's actually slightly frozen so that we can slice it very thinly. And I'm just going to cut this in half again and slice it very, very thinly, because this will cook with that hot broth. So you don't want the pieces to be too thick, almost shaving the eye of round here. The broth is up to a boil now, and that's great. You really want it nice and hot. I have some rice noodles here, and these are about a medium thickness here. Into this, I'm gonna add the eye of round that I've sliced, a few slices of the brisket here, and now some fresh ingredients. So bean sprouts are always a great addition, kind of a welcome crunch to the noodle soup. I'm gonna add a little bit of thinly sliced onion, some scallion. And now for the aromatics here, Thai basil is really popular and traditional, and it also gives a really fragrant flavor to your pho. Some cilantro. Now, if you're lucky and you have an Asian supermarket around, you can maybe find, this is Vietnamese cilantro. So it has these long leaves here, but it's very, very fragrant, almost twice as fragrant as the cilantro that you find in your regular supermarket. So I like to kind of rip it up a little bit. Now, if you like heat, you can add some chilies. These are Thai bird chilies that are thinly sliced. These are very, very hot. So I would say a little goes a long way. Just gonna put a few in. And now I'm gonna ladle over the broth. So make sure it is nice and hot and it goes right over everything. And you wanna make sure that you fill your bowl up with this broth. Again, it's the most important component here. If you really wanted to add even more components, you could squeeze a little bit of lime over. That acidity is really nice, but never put your lime wedge into the broth because it creates a bitter broth. So always leave it off to the side when you're done. You could add some hoisin sauce, which is the sweet, rich soy sauce, or also this is sambal. This is a chili paste with garlic that can also be added. So there you go, guys. It might take a while to master this technique of making pho, the broth, but I think once you do, you're gonna be making it a lot. Enjoy, I'm gonna enjoy this. If you have any kitchen conundrums that you need solved, write in the comments section below or reach out to us using the hashtag kitchen conundrums. Enjoy, guys.